Okay, Chess YouTube, this game played between Hikaru and Magnus Carlsen in the recent Chess.com Classic. This game right here it's going to break all the rules. I mean, the opening to start off with is just completely bizarre, but beyond that, I mean, the way this game goes, the finale, the final moves, I mean, you simply have to stay till the very end to see the insane finale to this game. So Hikaru going for essentially a King's Indian attack sort of setup, and Magnus going for essentially the accelerated Queen's Indian defense in response. So let's see how it goes from here. Magnus going c5, getting space on the queen side. So far, so good. We have e4 and then d6. And now, despite the weird opening, we're finally starting to get to something resembling a more normal game of chess, if that's even a thing between Magnus and Hikaru. I mean, these guys play the most bizarre openings you could possibly imagine on a very, very routine basis. All right, now, we have castles. And then g6, okay, going for the fianchetto on the king side. So far, so good. Now, here, white has a lot of ideas he can play. For example, I don't know, rook e1 makes sense. Bishop e3 intending queen d2 makes sense. Maybe knight c3 or c3 and so on. White's got a lot of ideas, but instead of those ideas, Hikaru goes knight to g5. This is not a move I would expect. I mean, quite frankly, I don't think I've ever seen this idea in this kind of setup right here from white, ever. Hikaru showing, to me, what is a brand new idea. I've never quite seen it played like this. Now, black goes h6, and white's idea, knight to h3. Again, I can't remember analyzing even one game on this YouTube channel. I've analyzed hundreds and hundreds where white goes for this exact sequence in this sort of closed Sicilian style setup here. All right, black, knight c6. White goes f4. That is the idea. And then black e6. All right, c3. So far, both sides sort of making these zigzaggy pawn chains, and they're both gaining space on different sides of the board. White's sort of attacking on the king side, and black's sort of on the queen side. White's idea may be g4, f5, and black's idea may be b5, b4 a little bit later. All right, bishop g7, queen d2, then castles. So far, so good. Now, we're 12 moves in, and this is where the game really, really heats up, because Hikaru is bringing the heat in this game. He plays the move g4. Now, if you're a beginner, you know, rated 1,000, 1,500, 500 ELO online, you know, this move, like don't try this at home. This is one of those moves where, you know, Hikaru can pull this off, but if you try it in your own games, I mean, good luck. This is just so weakening on the king side. Hikaru is now effectively all in. He's basically, he kind of just has to attack here with these pawns. If he doesn't do that, he's going to be in so much trouble. All right, black, b5, gaining space. Again, black's idea is potentially b4, then taking on c3, and counterattacking on the newly opened b file and against the c3 pawn. That is kind of black's whole idea here. Now, white goes g5, gaining space and pushing back the knight. Now, should black take on g5, or should he go somewhere else with the knight? Maybe to h7, maybe to d7, and so on. Well, it turns out taking on g5 is actually the right idea. But instead, Magnus, knight to h7. He retreats, maintaining the tension. A very typical Magnus Carlsen move. I mean, who can argue with this guy? Now, white takes on h6. G takes h6 is the move. We have bishop takes. And then here, Hikaru's got to find the right way to continue the attack, to increase the pressure. And to be honest, the old rule of bring every piece into the attack still applies here. So Hikaru should be bringing his queenside piece into the game. Right now, his queenside is very, very underdeveloped. But instead of that, he plays the move queen to g4. Now, what is the idea behind this? It's very simple as far as I can tell. The queen lines up with the king on g8. And therefore, Hikaru, he likely wants to go f5. The point being then, this pawn would be pinned. It could not take on f5. And therefore, white would have a lot of pressure. But Magnus, he ignores it and goes b4, which is the best move. Turns out f5 is not so dangerous yet, because then the bishops could be traded and black would be doing relatively okay. So instead, white goes queen to g3, dropping back. Very interesting. Now we have b takes, and then bishop to a6. A very good multi-purpose move. The idea being First of all, you pressure the pawn on d3, but second of all, you open up the rook to go to b8, pressuring along the b file. So Magnus here, he knows in the long run, he can't win on the king side. That is Hikaru's domain in this game. He has to counterattack on the queen side and make white's life as difficult as possible with those counterattacking ideas. Now, here, turns out f5 right away is playable, but instead, Hikaru, knight d2, bringing yet another piece into the attack. A good idea. Now, Magnus also has many ideas. Rook b8's one idea, but instead, queen to a5 is played, pressuring c3, and the queen is very, very active here. Now, yes, the queen is active, but on the other hand, the queen is now further away from the defense of the king side, and that means Hikaru's attack could be a little more dangerous. So it's a very double-edged decision. It could be bad. It could also be good. It just depends on how the game progresses. Now, here, I kind of expected f5 from white. f5 is like the logical follow-up to all of white's ideas. f5 is just screaming to be played. But instead, Hikaru, he defends the pawn on c3. Now, this turns out to be a little bit weak. Yes, you do defend the pawn, but on the other hand, it is a little bit slow. Now, Magnus, he returns the favor, making a slightly weak move. Queen to b5. The problem with this move, it looks good. You pressure d3, you pressure b2, and so on. The problem is knight to c4 blocks all the attacks, and Hikaru finds it. It defends b2, blocks the attack, pressures d6. Hikaru here finding a really good move. Now, if the queen were on, say, b6 instead of b5, then the bishop could take on c4, then the queen takes on b2. So that is why in this position, queen b6 was a little more precise than queen b5, but Magnus making a small mistake here, and Hikaru punishing it immediately. Now from here, the game gets absolutely wild. Black goes knight a5, removing or trying to remove the defender of the knight on c4, sorry, of the defender of the bishop on b2, which would be the knight. Now if white takes on a5, then the bishop on b2 hangs as well, and that is what happens. We have knight takes, then queen takes, then c4, gaining space. Now black goes e5, gaining space as well. Now we have f5. Hikaru finally getting the key f5 break in the game. Good stuff. All right. Magnus, you're under attack, but you've got some decent counterplay. Your queen's very active on b2. Your rooks could get into the game on the b file as well. And you have some pressure here. So how do you want to continue? Well, Magnus here goes queen to d2. And it turns out this is quite a good square for the queen. It synergizes with the bishop, and these two pieces defend each other. And beyond that, black is threatening ideas like queen to e3, which hits the queen and the king, and virtually forces the queens off the board. And beyond that, queen g5 also could be kind of strong here. So Hikaru, he takes on g6. A good move. The point being, black here has no time for queen to e3 shenanigans. The point being, if you go queen to e3, the sequence is queen takes, bishop takes, and then g takes h7 with check, and white wins. So here, black has to respond. He takes on g6. We have f takes, queen takes, and then king to h8. And now, both kings are being super, super exposed here. I mean, literally anything could happen. The pawn structure, despite starting out very asymmetrical, has now become virtually identical. The only difference being white has the extra pawn on h2, but that is the only difference. All right, knight b3 hits the queen on the d2 square. Queen to e3. The queen slides over, hits the king on g1. Then we have king to h1, and then rook g8 hits the queen on g6. All right, queen to h5. The queen slides back to the h5 square. And here, Magnus Carlsen, he makes a mistake. And this is not just a little mistake. This is one of the worst mistakes that Magnus Carlsen has ever made in the history of his career. And I'm not exaggerating. Certainly against Hikaru here. He plays the rook sacrifice. Rook takes g2, which looks very strong at first glance. After all, the king is being super exposed. The other rook flies in. The bishop flies in as well. And black's getting all of these attacking ideas immediately. However, it turns out white can defend. King takes g2. Rook g8. The rook slides over. The king slides back. Bishop to c8 pressures the knight. Rook to f3 defends the knight, hits the queen. White here so far defending perfectly. Hikaru being one of the best defensive players in the game right now, even maybe of all time. We have queen to e2. The queen slides down. Rook to g1, defending on the king side. And here Magnus plays kind of a beautiful idea. Bishop to g4. He hits the queen. He hits the rook. He maintains tension on the knight. And of course, if you take the bishop, the rook falls. That is the entire idea besides the fork. And in this position, Hikaru is completely winning. But he resigns to Magnus Carlsen in a winning position with 3 minutes and 45 seconds left on the clock. So what did Hikaru miss? It's very simple. He missed one simple move. Rook f to g3. If you play this, everything works out. And the reason being, if you take the queen, it is checkmate on the spot. Therefore, you can't take the queen, and white here is going to defend. And he's just winning. But Hikaru missed that, and right here, he resigned. This is not a typo. This is not a misclick or a misreading of the chessboard, whatever. This actually happened in the recent chess.com Classic. I mean, really, really wild stuff. All right, Chess YouTube, hope you enjoyed this video. Comment down below what you thought of this wild game right here. I mean, what do you guys think Hikaru was thinking right there? Did he just miss rook f g3? I mean, he played like every other move up until that point perfectly, taking the rook, going king h1, going rook f3, going rook g1. I mean, everything else was absolutely perfect, but he just missed rook f g3, and that would have won. Really wild stuff. So very curious what you guys think of this right here. And as always, I wish you the best of luck in your chess improvement journey in 2025 and beyond, and I'll see you in the next video.